In this lesson, we're going to be talking about decompilers and decompilation. The idea behind decompilation is that you want to take something that looks like this, where it's just a whole lot of binary digits, or in this case, hexadecimal digits, but something that's just raw binary, and you want to get back to something like this. Now, there's a lot of problems with decompilers and decompilation. One of them is just inaccuracy. So the way that compilers work is you take a program and it runs through and translates the human-readable program into something that can be run by the computer. In other words, it's going to translate that to machine language. Now, the problem that we run into is different compilers will do things in different ways. So if you've got an optimizing compiler, for example, it may take a chunk of code and do something different with it to get it into machine language than another compiler would. There's not just a simple conversion, and that's particularly true when you get into really complex programs, particularly programs that have multiple modules to them, multiple dozens or multiple hundreds of modules to them. When you get to that point, decompilation just becomes really challenging and beyond challenging, almost impossible. So you get conversion inaccuracies going from machine language to actual human-readable code, where what comes out of the other end of a compiler probably won't look anything at all like what went into it when the program was first written. There's another problem with decompilers, and that's legality. The legality of decompilers was challenged almost 20 years ago, and so the courts have ruled that certain conditions have to be met before you can do a decompilation of a program, and that's partly because of the intellectual property that's involved. If I could decompile a program and get perfect, flawless code back, then I could take your code that was protected by copyright or patents or whatever, and I could start making minor alterations to it so it effectively worked the same way, but was just enough different to get around copyright laws or patent laws. Then I could start selling your program, basically. And that's not something that generally works very well in a capitalist economy, which is, of course, why software manufacturers started taking this whole decompilation thing to the courts. Now, because we can't decompile things like C programs doesn't mean decompilers are absolutely out of the question. So there is a program called Flasm, which is a Flash assembler and disassembler. So when you write Flash programs, or you write programs in the Flash ActionScript language, and then you compile them, it compiles them to this intermediate language, and that can be disassembled back into something that resembles Flash. Same thing is true with Java, although it's becoming harder to find Java decompilers. For a while, there were Java decompilers that would take the Java intermediate code, the bytecode, and be able to come back with reasonable Java out of the other end of it. So you can certainly do decompilation if you've got the right kind of language or the right environment, but there are certainly a lot of challenges with decompilation as well, which is why decompilers are really, really hard to find these days, if not impossible.